Rated T for teen.
Greetings Ascended and welcome to an introduction to zone events. In this video we're going to be talking all about zone events in Rift. We're going to be going over what happens, which zones have zone events, the rewards for completing these zone events and participating in them. We're going to be covering how to track and find these zone events, and finally we're going to be throwing in a few pro tips. So first off, what are actually zone events? Now, zone events are when the planes choose to invade a particular zone, and kind of what happens is rifts will open across the zone, and invasions will start marching towards wardstones, which will be located in towns and also important quest hubs. As an Ascended, it is your responsibility to defend Talara and beat back the invasion, seal the rifts, and once you've done that, usually a massive boss will pop out, or in some cases more than one boss might pop out, and you have to defeat them, and then boom, you have completed the zone event and saved Talara. However, there are also quite a lot of odd and interesting zone events which kind of deviate from this standardized pattern. For example, what you're seeing at the moment is gameplay footage of Volan, which is a huge zone event based on fighting this giant colossi called Volan, and it goes through several stages where you have to defeat various parts of his body armor. You start kind of stripping off like his leg armor, chest armor, these power cells on his back, and also his glove armor, and once you've sort of taken away all of his defenses, then you can strike at him and send him back to the plane of air and get rewarded quite a bit for doing it. It's one of the most fun and rewarding zone events in the game. However, it is one of the more rare ones, so it's important to keep an eye out, especially in kind of the endgame chats, for when exciting events like this are happening. There are also different types of zone events for people who enjoy collecting artifacts, known as unstable artifact events. For half an hour in any particular zone, unstable artifacts will spawn, and that's pretty much the only time you can get them. The thing is with unstable artifacts, they are often very, very hard to find. They've kind of like this glowy blue color, and they are only available for the duration of the zone event, which makes them extremely rare and valuable in the game. And you know, those artifacts can be exchanged to get the very sought after planar squirrel mounts, which just look absolutely fantastic. There are also a large variety of other zone events that kind of incorporate this big colossi battle. For example, there's Leviathan in Tyrant's Throne, which is kind of a level 60, 65 endgame zone event, and there's also this one in Morban where you have to like defeat these camps, and then you get like these rocket launchers to go onto a platform where you can fight this big boss, and he's constantly trying to knock you off the platform. Yeah, so basically there's a lot of diverse and very cool zone events that you're going to come across during your adventures in Rift. Now, the next question we're going to cover is which zones have zone events, and the answer to that is pretty simple. Every zone in the game has zone events that spawn in it, apart from the very starting ones, so that's like Terminus and Old Mephosia. So you have to be prepared for them, as they could strike at pretty much any time during your leveling experience. One important thing that I also want to cover is how kind of, Rift zone events work for a higher level player. So, for example, if you are in like a level 15 to 20 zone and you're a level 65 player, if you join into the zone event, you won't just be able to one-shot the boss, you will actually be automatically mentored down to the zone event of that level. That prevents, for example, like lower level zone events being ruined just by some guy in endgame gear who just wants to one-shot everything. You are actually forced down to that level to participate in the zone event, which I think is pretty cool. And this also has perks for the endgame person that might want to help out in lower level zone events. Doing lower level zone events, because you're mentored down at its equivalent difficulty, you can actually get endgame currency for participating in like those level 15 to 20 zone events, which is pretty cool as well. You'll see kind of like blue arrows under your character portrait, as you might be able to see on my screen now, and that will show you that you are being mentored down currently, and that your power and health and stats have been basically reduced to match the equivalent content that you are fighting. So you're fighting these monsters, you're closing the rifts, you're saving Talara. What are you getting reward wise? Now, what you get for completing zone events is currency, depending on your level. So if you're level 1 to 50, you will get Source Stone, which can be used to buy level 1 to 50 gear. If you are level 50 50 to 60, you will get Infinity Stone, which can be used to buy kind of Storm Legion gear. And if you are level 60 to 65, you will be getting Void Stones, which is kind of the endgame-ish currency that you can use to buy all the exciting endgame gear in the Nightmare Tide regions. You will also get gear caches for killing the bosses occasionally. You will get a decent chunk of experience and planar experience for killing bosses. And finally, at the very end game, there is a weekly quest to do 4 zone events in the endgame zones, and that will reward you with a large assortment of endgame currencies along with loads of planar experience. Basically, like, it is a quest when you reach level 65 that you will want to ensure that you do every week, because it is just such great value. So next we want to go on to talk about how to track zone events. Now, there are kind of 2 core ways to track zone events, and one is using the in-game map. There are actually 3 different continents in the game. So you have Talara, which is kind of the 1 to 50 zone. You have Duskin and Brevane, which are the 50 to 60 zones, and then you have the Plane of Water. And for example, you cannot see the Plane of Water events unless you are in the Plane of Water. You cannot see the Talara events unless you are somewhere in Talara. So you need to actually teleport to the continent that you want to be on to actually see all of the zone events going on. Now, it can often be a tad difficult to get like an overview of all of the zone events going on in game, just because you have to keep porting between continents. So one of the things that a lot of Rift players use is actually an external Rift zone event tracker. The zone event tracker can be found at rifteventtracker.com/v2 and will give you a huge overview of all of the events going on all of the servers on all of the regions. And it's really, really awesome just to be able to see like everything at a glance. And for people who are mad on doing zone events and want to get stuff like all of the unstable artifacts, it is just a great tool to use. So yeah, check it out. The final thing, as promised earlier in the video, is just a quick list of pro tips. Now, the first thing that I'm going to cover is something known in game as shard hopping. So if you right click your character's portrait and then go to the bottom, you'll see this teleport to shard button, which means that you can actually teleport to any server on your region. So on the EU, I believe there are 6 different servers, as you can see, Xavier, Typheria, Galeedra, Brookwatch, Breezesel, and Blood Iron. However, be aware that Blood Iron is a PvP server, so if you go there, you will get flagged. And then on the NA, I believe there's about, I think it's 7 or 8. So there are multiple instances of every zone running at any time, which means that pretty much there's always a zone event going on somewhere, which is very cool. And combined with the Rift event tracker tool that we were looking at earlier, means that you can always find some action quite easily using that. So that's pretty cool. So you can go to any server just by right-clicking your portrait, teleport to shard, and clicking there. Now, the next thing is that if you are part of a guild, which you probably should be, is you get these really fun things called guild rally banners, which can be accessed by pressing P, guild perks, and summon guild rally banner. And what you do, generally speaking, is you plonk one of them right next to the boss or something that you may be having trouble with, and then you type in guild chat, hey, the boss is up, or I need some help with this. And what people can do is they can use something called a rally scroll, which can be purchased in the guild hall in both Sanctum and Meridian, and also somewhere in services in the Rift store, just for in-game currency, no credits or anything like that. Let's see, it is just down here under the guild functionality. So yeah, you can just buy a big bundle of those for 1 plat. They are very, very cheap, and it allows you to quickly teleport to your guild member and quickly get involved in a zone event. Now, another way to get your friends, party members, guildies directly to you is by using summons, and now there are a variety of summons that do exist in the game. So one of the first ones is via the loyalty perk in the orange tier, Friend to All. Also with the Nightmare's Tide Collector's Editions, the very top one gives you Planewalker's Call, which can summon your whole group to you, which is very, very useful if you're hunting down a boss. And then via the in-game planar attunement tree, if you kind of look to the third tier of every planar tree, so fire, earth, water, life, and death, for example, you'll see there's summon group fire. So if you're doing a fire zone event and there are lots of fire rifts, you just go to the nearest fire rift and you can summon your whole group there. So that's pretty cool. Those are pretty much all of the ways to summon people. So yeah, hope you learned a good tip there. The final thing in the pro tips is, of course, to use your Fury of Ascended buff whenever you can, especially when you're fighting Colossi. So Fury of Descended is a buff that you get pretty much when you hit about level 10. You just go into Silverwood or Free March, and it's one of the introductory quests. But it's important to stay stocked up on planet charges, as this can, you know, be extremely helpful on staying alive fighting bosses. So when you pop it increases the damage you do against a Colossi by 20% and reduces the damage taken from that Colossi by 50%. It also increases targeted damage against planar invasions by 150% and reduces the damage taken you by those planar invasions by 75% and lasts for 60 seconds. So and it also has a 1 minute and 20 second cooldown. So there's going to be this window of 20 seconds where you do not have it, so you kind of have to time it carefully, you know, maybe to get you through a phase where this boss is doing a lot of AoE or just going crazy to mitigate some of the damage there, but you know, just be aware that it does have a 20-second downtime, so you can't have it up 24/7. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the Introduction to Zone Events video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. Apart from that, have a absolutely fantastic day and take care.